Diving into the complex world of the merchant marine. If you have any interest in the merchant marine, there is a lot to learn and there's a lot that goes into getting on a ship and getting your first job in the merchant marine. And if you have any interest in this line of work or want to meet people from around the world who are interested in this, in the merchant marine and traveling the world on a ship, on the sea, like me and other mariners all over, join my community, Sailors Connect. Amazing people on there, amazing resource to learn what there is to learn about the merchant marine. Everything you need to learn in one place. Sailors Connect, link in description. But let's get right to it. When I started my process in the merchant marine, I knew nothing, and there was not too much information out there directly that helped me out. I was applying to captain's jobs without even knowing what an STCW is. So this video, I want to try to really briefly summarize every decision you will need to make to get onto a satisfying career path in the merchant marine. Okay, right off the bat, to work on a ship, you need basic credentials and basic certificates to work on a ship, and those are your MMC, your Merchant Mariner credential, your TWIC, Transportation Workers Identification or credential, and if you want to work overseas, your passport. This is for USA Merchant Mariners, specifically. Every country has their own specific requirements to allow you to work on a ship. But those is step one to getting a job. Also, getting your STCWs done. Those are the basic requirements to being able to work on a ship. You can look into it. So many acronyms in the Merchant Marine that it's just hard to keep up with. But this is the first one that you need to get to learn and the basics to working on a ship. This includes like lifeboat, firefighting, any type of shit that allows you to work on a ship that the Coast Guard requires you to know to tell them you are a qualified mariner. Now, going from there and how to get those things, there are many routes. So one way to go about it, which is a very common way, is to just simply pay out of pocket for your STCWs. These are classes that you will take from a Coast Guard approved facility, such as Blue Water, for example, down in Jacksonville, Florida. And you will get those credentials, and you'll be able to use those credentials to be able to work on a ship as an entry-level mariner. Or you can go a different route, which is through an apprenticeship program like I did. I went through the apprenticeship program with the Seafarers International Union to get all my credentials and a little bump ahead of everyone else to start my journey in the merchant marine. Then there's a whole nother route if you wanted to go the federal route, work with the federal aspect of the merchant marine, which is the Military Sealift Command, and they will walk you through the whole process, the hiring process, and they will put you in their STCW course, their training course called NEO, and they will give you all the training you need to be in the merchant marine and work on their fleet specifically. Now, I'm running through this briefly, so I recommend getting something to write this shit down because it gets a little complicated. I'm not going through every specific little detail there is because it's a lot. And if, like I said before, if you want any help on that journey, come join Sailors Connect where awesome people are. But once you get your credentials, you start being able to work on a ship, you have a couple decisions to make. You can either think about becoming an officer, a licensed merchant mariner, which is maybe going to an academy, merchant marine academy. There's plenty of those around the country. Or if you have a bachelor's degree, maybe you can go and take their graduate program and go through it for like 3 years and you'll come out as an officer. Or you want to go the unlicensed route, which is what I did. Start from the bottom and work your way up to the top the old-fashioned way, which we call hawse piping. And you've got to think about that decision. Do you want to go licensed or unlicensed? Another decision you have to make is when you are in this position, or do you want to go work for a specific company? Do you want to work in a union? Or do you want to work as a federal employee working for MSC or NOAA or Army Corps of Engineers? Lots of decisions to be made at the first couple steps to even before you get on a ship. I highly recommend doing what is available to you at the time. The quickest option to me is the best route when it comes to going out on sea. It's if you're in a union and you get on a ship through a union, good. If you get a call back from a company and they say come work on a ship, good. Because you just want to get that sea time. You want to get your name out there. You want to get your first couple steps on the sea, because life becomes a lot easier once you're an experienced mariner compared to a beginner. The beginning stages are the hardest when it comes to working in the merchant marine. The number one thing you need to learn is patience. It takes a long time to get all this paperwork done, to get all these credentials out of the way, all these decisions to be made to getting on your first ship. So there are many important decisions you have to make here. I'm going to briefly go over all of them. Another important decision you have to make is, do you want to work inland, close to land, close to home? Or do you want to travel the world on big ships and, get that type of experience that you've probably seen all over YouTube? Because those two are kind of different, and what you need and what you got to do to get those jobs. Like, inland jobs don't require as much paperwork to get done, as much medical stuff to get done, as in going overseas. You have a lot of paperwork and medical shit that is required, and it takes a lot of time. So put that in mind. And what I mean by inland, I mean more like tugboats. I mean more like OSVs, dredges, ferries, whatever it is, inland. ATBs. A lot of fucking words you might not even know what I'm saying. But those are all inland. Deep sea, you're thinking of more of those big cargo ships, container ships, bulk carriers, ro-ros, cable ships, all shit like that. Things you see a lot in the movies and all over YouTube. So you have to think, where do you want to go in this path? Where do you want your life to look like when it comes to this job? Because this job does take over a large part of your life. You kind of fall into the mold of a sailor once you're in this life. And I love it. I love the fact that I fall into the mold of a sailor. I feel like I live a life that many people wish they could. Traveling the world, working only 6 months out of the year. It's pretty fucking awesome. But that's another thing you have to consider. Two big things, actually, before I jump the gun here. The department you work in is a major decision you have to make for your whole career, because it is setting a staple in what you're going to do for your job in the merchant marine forever. And what I mean by department, I mean there's deck, engine, and the steward's department. Deck is what I do. Those are the guys who you see in the movies pulling up the line, steering the ship, navigating the ship. Then you have the guys in the engine room who are doing all the mechanical sides, working on the engine on the ship. And then you see the other guys who are working in the steward's department, who prepare the food and clean the galley. That's a decision, very important decision you have to make for yourself and what kind of lifestyle you want in the merchant marine. And then, God, I know this sounds like a ridiculous amount of shit. It's actually, I'm getting bored just talking about it. But there's another decision you have to think about. And this is another one maybe you'll think about a little later in life, is what type of rotation you want in this industry. What kind of work-life balance do you want? So if you go, for example, federal job, military sea lift command, deep sea vessels, you're going to be away from home a lot. That's the reality of it. Like 6-8 months out of the year gone from home. Now, if you worked inland, tugboat on the Mississippi River, that's like a 2-week on, 2-week off job. You work for 2 weeks, then you're home for 2 weeks, and you do that rotation all year. So it's a lot easier of a work-life balance. There's a lot of decisions to be made. And I know this is a lot. I apologize for the immense amount of shit that I'm throwing on you, but I feel like this is a video that needs to be out there because I wish I knew all this information when I started. Then there's just a lot of things you have to decide for yourself. Like, do I want a riskier job? Do I want a safer job? Do I want to be isolated more? So back onto the deep sea overseas ships, is they have a tendency to do military contracts and work in more high-risk areas. And they're more isolated from the outside world because of that. So you have to measure out your options, or you want to be close to land, have service the whole time, be able to talk to your family, see your family every couple of weeks instead of 6-7 months later. These are all little decisions you have to make. And I don't mean to make overseas sound bad. I love overseas work. That was some of the best times of my life, being able to travel the world and have all of these awesome experiences that the merchant marine gives you that no other fucking industry in the world will give you. I promise you that. You got to think about long-term growth. If this is a decision I'm making to get into the Merchant Marine, long term or short term, because you can do that, and that's okay. Lots of people get into the Merchant Marine just to make a lump sum of money, and then they get out. They're like, I'm gonna come here, buy my first house, use this to buy my first house, and then I'm out of the Merchant Marine. I don't plan on doing this forever. But if you're someone who plans on doing this for an extended period of time, you want to consider for career advancement and where you want that to shoot towards. Do you want to work on deck and maybe shoot for an officer, shoot for a captain? Do you bosun? Do you want to work in the engine department, shoot for engineers, chief engineer, kind of work your way up and become mechanically inclined? Think of that as your future. Stewards department. Do you want to go from cleaning dishes to being almost like a professional cook, professional steward, to where you control the galley? These are all decisions you have to make. You have to consider everything when making your decision in the Merchant Marine. These are all things that I continuously question myself and change over and over as time goes on, as I learn more about in the Merchant Marine. I used to continuously do 6-8 months straight on a ship. Having a family, that might be a little hard. So now I'm on a month on, month off rotation, which is nice. I work for a month, I'm home for a month. And I only work 6 months out of the year, which is very cool. So I have a lot of freedom and flexibility in the decisions that I make in this industry. Now, there are a lot of decisions to be made, but you can't make any of these decisions until you start your journey in the Merchant Marine. And the best place to do it is in Sailors Connect, where you can meet mariners from all over the world, meet awesome people like Jeff on board, Jason Deck Daddy, and many others who I consider to be some of my best friends. So if this industry interests you at all, you want to learn more, because I know I said a bunch of shit that is super confusing, and it only gets more confusing as you get into the industry more. If you want to keep up with it and learn more, check out Sailors Connect, link in description. I really briefly went over it all, but it's a lot, and I know it's a lot. I wish someone told me all this shit when I was first getting into it. I missed out on a lot of opportunities when I first started because of just lack of knowledge. And I wish I had some type of networking in this industry, because that's the best way to learn anything. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something from the maritime industry. And if there's anything that I missed, leave it in the comments. Any questions, leave in the comments. I'm always trying to help people out into the Merchant Marine. I want to make this channel as basic as possible, just answering the things the questions I had when I first started. That's all I want this channel to be. And same thing with Sailors Connect, but there you make friends. So I hope you start your journey soon. And when you do, I hope to see you out there and sail on.